at the end, I think your discipline, your why factor becomes the reason that you persist, even move on. Because when you know that, yes, you are wrong and these are the right things to do, even though you are at a low, you get encouraged to do better. So I would suggest that when you get finished with certain topic of your GS, let's say you are done internal security, you have completed notes of it, and you think that your notes are of decent quality, pick up PYQs of those, start and practice writing them. That there would be certain questions in all years, there are certain questions that are some sort of can't be touched, and they are tough. So you won't be panicked at looking at those tough questions. And you will know that there are questions in the same paper that I would be knowing very well, some questions that I would have to struggle for a bit, and I'll be able to do it. So just practice, just look at the PYQs, that helps. You don't need to run after a lot of sources, you can be strategic. And again, you can also use test series here between pre and mains, because the test series would cover a lot of topics that are in news. It might not be your day, a few questions might not have come from your understanding and domain, so don't get worried about it. Treat it as a test, treat it as a practice, treat it as a learning experience, and just move ahead and go back, revise, and prepare for the main exam. Take a decision on the basis that you have to get good marks in optional, clear the exam, not become very much or some authority in that subject. So make a strategic decision rather than a very emotional one here.
On behalf of Vision IS family, I proudly welcome today amongst us for an insightful and distributive discussion on how to clearly crack this exam. Please, with a huge round of applause, welcome Sanskriti Trivedy. A huge round of applause for Sanskriti. Sanskriti has secured an extraordinary rank 17 this year. She is already in the services and she has secured rank 352 last year. Sanskriti, her optional is PSIR. She is born from Jamui and she's done her schooling from Ranchi. Post that, she became a due student she did her graduation from Gargi College. She epitomizes determination, hard work and discipline. This is her 6th attempt and her optional is PSIR. She has a lot to offer and on behalf of Vision IS family, she's also been part of our Abhyas initiatives and test series. We welcome you all. Sanskriti, thank you so much for joining us. Before we start the session, I would request our respected faculty, Neeraj Rao sir, to please come on the stage and felicitate Sanskriti. Sir, please. Huge round of applause for sir. I would also request Paritosh sir to please come on stage and felicitate Sanskriti on behalf of Vision IS family. Thank you so much, sir, and huge round of applause for Paritosh sir.
So, hi Sanskriti, the introduction part is done, and lots of students have been waiting. So, of course, the generic first question, which of course comes to mind, what was your reaction once you saw your name on the list? And it was not the first time. It was the second time when you saw your name on the list, and how different was it from your previous experience of seeing your name in the list?
So whenever you sit for the exam and give the interview, and I don't think the jitters go any less. The jitters are all the very same. So this time it was different because I was not at home. I was in training. I was in Shimla, a very beautiful place to be. So I was in Shimla, I was undergoing training, we just had our lunch, and we thought that the results might not come today, but suddenly somebody shouted results had come, and my friend came running and he said that you got rank 70. I heard 70, and I was like, okay, that's nice, I'll get into my desired service, but then I realized it was 17, so it was a double surprise. I was really happy, called up my parents. They were also very satisfied. They were happy for me because I'd been doing this for a very long time now. So it was just a very grateful, very blessed end to a very long journey that I started. Very grateful for that.
Okay, great. So one more thing, she's a very good example of how patience and perseverance is required for this examination. This was her 6th attempt, and again, in fact, the last attempt, and she has secured a rank of 17. So that of course is because examination is so much there is no much clarity that again which attempt you are going to clear, and again what is the stages, right? So it is very important that again you have a motive that why do I want to prepare for the examination, right? So what was your initial motivation that this is the career I would like to pursue as a career in civil services? So what was your motivation?
Sir, it comes from a very personal interaction with my father. So, my father had also appeared for this exam and reached till the interview stage in his time. So, he was the one who introduced me to the exam, the service in general. And also, when I started studying about political science, public service, so all of that added and accumulated to me being very much sure that this is what I wanted to do. And I think, sir, what we see around that all of us have certain personal ambitions. So that also added to my drive for it. But sir, these motivations, I think, become secondary in when the journey is so long. At the end, I think your discipline, your discipline and your why factor becomes the reason that you persist.
Right. So again, you are from Gargi College, Delhi University. So there's a very common culture of students in Delhi University preparing for the examination, right? So was it something you started along with your college days, or was it something you started after you graduated?
Sir, I studied political science, so in a way, a lot of things started to get. I was exposed to, but I was not doing a very focused or very directed preparation. I was trying to read the newspapers, but not regularly. Tried to pick up the NCRTs after a very long time after school, but all of that was not that focused. So I'll say my preparation majorly started after graduation. Even though I was studying political science, that eventually became my optional. So in a way, you can say that, but focused, dedicated preparation was after college.
After the college, right? So once you were of course you graduated, then how exactly you started preparing for the examination? Was it starting from the NCRTs, which is commonly told that you should start reading NCRTs from 6th to 12th, and then generally move gradually towards the high, maybe the standard books? So was it something you also pursued, and what was your initial strategy for the preparation of examination?
Sir, I think this is where I lacked that even though I started preparing, I did not have a very clear cut strategy, clear cut sources, and clear cut focused goals, focused routines. So, and this costed me attempts. This costed me my first attempt, which I gave just after my final exams, just for the trial sake that we say. Then even the second attempt that I gave, even though I had studied the basic books, but I lacked the strategy for prelims for the exam as a whole. So after my second failure in prelims, I realized that I am going somewhere majorly wrong, and this is where I did really changed my preparation. Here I focused on like basic sources, which I think everybody might have heard of, added with adequate current affairs, not too much, not too less, and practiced a lot, which I think changed a lot. In first two prelims, I think I might not have given even 10 full tests of prelims, but the third prelims that I gave, for 2 months, every day I was writing a prelims test. So I made mistakes and learned. So I think people hearing me, I think should start from day one. They should have a clear-cut strategy, listen to what toppers are saying, and also curate your strategy according to your own needs because everyone's conditions is different. But have a vision in mind, have an approach in mind. Don't go blindly into the preparation.
Again, certainly you talked a very interesting topic that many students, of course, over here also, people struggle with the first stage, that is prelims, right? It becomes sometimes very overwhelming in nature, again, prelims approaching for the students as well. How did you tackle your failures in the first two attempts? Did it lead to something you getting demotivated towards examination, or was it something you learned through your mistakes, as you said, and which kept you going for the preparing for the examination?
Sir, the second prelims failure was certainly, let's say, watershed moment because at that moment I was very disheartened. I felt that all of my decisions are wrong. I should not have come into this journey. But then I realized that I was looking for problems outside. I was looking at what the questions are too factual, questions are too this or that. I was not looking inside that I have not put efforts, I have not put dedicated hours, I have not strategized my preparation. So when I started looking internally, I started to look that my sources are not yet complete, I have not written tests, I have not revised, then how can I expect results? So I think looking inside and looking at your mistakes was a very good gift that I got, a blessing in disguise that I got after these two failures. So, and that helped me even move on, because when you know that, yes, you are wrong and these are the right things to do, even though you are at a low, you get encouraged to do better.
Okay, so right. So maybe you are someone who would be very much explaining to students that what is the ideal strategy which you figured out after your few attempts, that this is a strategy that one should follow for the examination. Starting that again, people are confused. That again, should we start? We read prelims for 2 3 months, or shall we start reading from the mains perspective from the very initial being, right? And of course, it is going to be a comprehensive simultaneous preparation for all the three stages. So, what is the ideal strategy which you will suggest to our students?
So the ideal strategy would be to, of course, prepare things in an integrated way, and in that means that you prepare the subject pillars. You prepare polity, you prepare history, you prepare economy, international relations, and all of those subjects, environment, science, and tech, very important. And then whatever stage of the exam is close, you divert your attention to it. So I don't believe that for prelims you need to give the entire year, but if this is your first prelims, I think 3 4 months should be given, because you'll have to revise all the basic books, then you'll have to write tests, you'll have to review, you'll have to even check where you are going wrong, course correct, and also CSAT is very important. So 3 4 months for prelims. And for mains, I would suggest that before writing prelims, the notes should be complete of GS1, 2, 3, 4. Even though not fully complete, but at least 60 to 70% complete, because that will really take off the burden from your shoulders between pre and mains. And then between pre and mains, you brush up your notes, add up current affairs from sources like Mains 365, newspapers, etc. And then write mocks in a very time bound manner, where you are restricted that within a week I have to write these two tests, review them, get feedback, and then revise again. So between pre and mains, your focus should be on revision of the notes that you already have, writing mocks, getting feedback, going back to it again. For if you're fortunate you clear mains, then I think interview we'll talk about it later. Yeah.
Fine. So again, I would like to ask this question specifically students who are new to the preparation, right? So people have read NCRTs, maybe one or a couple of months they have devoted to NCRT. They are fresh graduates from the colleges. They have entered into something which is very hyped about in the country of this examination, of course. So after NCRTs, what is a gradual strategy preparing for the examination?
So first, adding to your question, even though NCRTs are important, one should not run after all NCRTs. I feel that for subjects, you need to pick NCRTs that are essential. For example, if I take geography, I believe 6 to 10 you should read once and pick out important things, make note of it, and just get done with it. Don't revisit them. But 11th, 12th NCRTs, you need to revisit them again and again. For history, I think for 6 to 12th becomes important, but again 11th 12th is more important. So don't blindly run at that all NCRTs have to be given equal attention. Also, when your NCRTs are complete, then you can go to the basic books. For example, let's say for polity you pick up Lakshmikant, you for modern history you pick up Spectrum. So have NCRTs as base and then pick these books. And also for geography, I feel 11, 12 NCRTs are golden. They need to be revised again and again. I think they're the most useful NCRTs. Yeah.
So people in the initial days also struggle with very important factor that when ideally we should start writing down the answers, right? Because of course college and university examinations are quite different from what exactly happens in the mains examination. So what was your strategy? When did you started to write down answers after your initial maybe few months of preparation? So what is the ideal time that one should start writing down the answers?
So in my journey, as I've told you, after two prelims failure, prelims became an issue. So for the third attempt, I was focused too much on prelims. So for mains, I wrote tests. I had notes complete for all GS papers. Even the notes were not of good quality. We'll talk about it later. But the notes were complete of all topics. So I wrote answers and mocks only between pre and mains. So and that reflected in my quality of answers because I was just doing the bare minimum. So I would suggest that when you get finished with certain topic of your GS, let's say you are done internal security, you have completed notes of it, and you think that your notes are of decent quality, pick up PYQs of those, start and practice writing them. And there are portals online that you can see PYQs solved. So you can at least match your writing with the standards that are needed. Also, one exercise that can be done is that toppers copies can be picked, easily available online, and the same answers you write, and then match if if it is of the same standard. I think gradually I think you will find that you are reaching that standard because you know that what is missing. Your introduction might be a little too very generic. Your examples may be missing or very not very to the point. Your answer writing may be very vague. So you'll identify those. So those course corrections have to be done. And between pre and mains, very dedicated strategy has to be made that I'll write, let's say, 3 tests of GS1, 3 tests of GS2, and maybe I feel that my GS3 and 4 are weak, so 4 tests each. So I think answer writing has to be integrated because I failed in mains of 2021 because I had not done all of that. 22 I was better prepared because I had practiced a lot during 21 mains, and before even writing prelims I tried to work on answer writing to some extent even though I had less time to pick up mains. So I think integrated way में पहले से कर लेना will be better.
Great. One more thing again, as you were telling that students usually get into that zone of preparing for prelims all around the year, right? And for students, which is very practical example, many students have been coming to us as well that again, once they fail to clear a prelims examination, something clicks in their mind, something is back in their mind that again, they prepare prelims round the year without preparing for mains because again of course it is going to be integral preparation. So how will you address this issue that again students should have belief in themselves ki again prelims is only one aspect of the examination but again there are two other aspects as well which has to be prepared simultaneously. So what is your say on this particular aspect?
Sir, I get the fear of prelims and I get that how the mindset becomes because I've faced it. Because you feel that I am not even able to compete in the first stage of the examination. How will I actually clear it? So let's put all attention to prelims. But that doesn't really help. So I think at that moment, a little bit of awareness has to be brought in that this is just one qualifying step. Scoring, let's say, plus 30 of from the cutoff of your category won't bring you any 10 marks extra in mains. So I think your focus should be on mains. So let's say if you have not done well in prelims this year, don't go running back to prelims. Of course, analyze that paper of that year, that where did you go wrong, make note of it, and then go to your mains. I think you should sync your studies with the mains of that year. If the mains of this year, let's say, I think is in August end, and those who unfortunately do not clear prelims should also study for mains until August and also October, November. And then because you have failed in prelims, so of course give a bigger amount of time to prelims. But have an awareness that this is an exam that is of 3 stages and mains being the most important. Have confidence that eventually if you give certain effort more into prelims, you'll clear it, but don't miss out on the crucial time that you've gotten to push your mains marks in the next attempt.
Right. One more aspect before coming to the whole preparation strategies. In the first attempt, right? So people, of course, you were confident that you had pol science as your graduation subject. Many students again have an idea that or they're confused that what is the ideal time I should start preparing for my optional paper as well in your first attempt, right? So of course, strategy of choosing an optional paper very quickly and what is an ideal time which is required if someone does not have graduation subject which they are going to choose as their optional paper. So what would be the strategy for optional strategy preparation in the first attempt?
So optional is of course a game-changing paper. This time I realized because I could not score a lot in GS, my optional pushed my total. So of course you need to pick up the optional very carefully. I believe that those who are studying humanities in their graduation, I think they should stick to what they're studying as their optional, because I think that helps eventually, because you have studied it, understood it, grasped it over 3 years. So why not use it to your advantage? But those who are changing their optional, let's say they're coming from a science or engineering background, uh, they should, I think, look into the availability of sources at first, that whether adequate sources are available, and number two, whether they have adequate amount of interests to even sustain that subject. So not only interest but also resources become very important, because the aim is not to develop interest in a subject. Aim is to get good marks in that paper and pass the exam. So I think you need to be very strategic in choosing your optional. Choose optional which you feel that you might score well in, you have that knack of understanding, so that can be done. And for preparation, I feel I think good 3-4 months would be needed to pick up any new subject, because I had the same subject, so I'm not really sure that how much time would be taken to prepare a very new subject. But I think I know friends who have engineering but taken up a humanities subject in their optional, and they took their good time to actually grasp it. So do not push it for the end. Start it at the very onset.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, 3/4 idle month time is required to prepare for the optional paper, right? So now getting into the zone of prelims preparation. So before your prelims, what is the ideal number of questions one need to solve? Because at the end of the day, it is going to be the game of 100 questions in that span of 2 hours, right? That is the game all about for prelims examination. So people many a times tend to read a lot, but they fear of solving questions. And one more thing which all of you must have faced also, ki in the initial few papers, once we start solving questions, we secure very less marks. And that gets into a mode of self-doubt, ki am I getting 30 marks, 40 marks in the test series, whether I'm actually ready to compete and again sit for the examination or not. So what is your take on this, that again students initially in the few tests score less marks? So is it normal, or someone should get worried with the less number of marks they are getting in the mock tests?
So definitely tests will become very important pillar in the prelims preparation. For me, it was because I thought that I lacked practice in the first two attempts, and that made me fearful for the paper, because I did not have a strategy in mind to how to tackle a new paper. So tests have like multiple purposes. The first purpose is just to get your fear out of the system, that yes, you can do all those 100 questions in 2 hours, and you will be able to do it comfortably. And for that, you need to practice it. So for 21, 22, and 24 prelims that I cleared, I gave at least 40 to 50 mocks, because prelims was something that I was always scared of. So I did not take it lightly. So I gave all those mocks, and that just kept me going, made me confident. Secondly, the tests also help in building up your content too, because you might have missed certain point of current affairs, or you might have missed something important of the basics. So when you make that question wrong, that helps you go back to all those basic books, basic current affairs. So that helps there. And third very important thing is that the test series will help you make a strategy for the prelims. By strategy, I mean that how you will tackle that paper in those 2 hours. And that means you need to have a very granular level of strategy for prelims. For example, you need to be very sure that how many iterations you will be reading the paper, at what time where you should be to keep time in check, and how much time you will actually take up for marking the bubbles, because it's an offline paper. There's time is needed too, and I think marking paper is the most important part. If you make a mistake there, it is an issue. So I had a rough strategy that for 1.5 hours at least my 2 iterations should be complete, and for half an hour I'll be marking the bubbles and all those questions left. So because I knew that I have this my timeline in mind, I knew that 9 to 10:30 I have to do this, 10:30 to 11 I have to do this, because I was so clear with my timings that I did not panic, did not have any fear. So I could just focus on the question. And I was able to develop this strategy only after giving a number of tests and trying them over and over again. So this timing can differ for everybody. People might read the paper 3 times in 1.5 hours, but I think a certain strategy, a certain set idea that what you're going to do will help. So you'll be just executing what you've been doing every day. So you'll not be fearful, you will not panic a lot. Of course, the anxiety creeps in. It's prelims after all, but at least you'll be calm and you'll be able to focus on the paper.
So certainly practicing a lot of questions is of course going to be a key which helped you to clear the prelims examination after 2 non-successful attempts, right? So now one more thing, that again, while solving the question, many a time student have, of course, must have faced this issue as well. Sometimes the initial few questions feel very tough and we get into a zone, is it a tough paper or is it something which I don't know, right? So in that zone of 2 hours, how one should keep a mental peace of mind that again, they are going to systematically, there are 100 more questions. Even if 12 questions are tough, you're not getting it, right? So there are other 80 questions, which is going to be how exactly to handle that phobia in that examination environment between 2 hours and how to keep oneself calm and composed during the whole 2 hours of solving the question paper.
Sir, here to practice helps, and seeing a lot of question paper helps, and seeing the PYQ helps, because you will know that there would be certain questions in all years. There are certain questions that are some sort of can't be touched, and they are tough. So you won't be panicked at looking at those tough questions, and you will know that there are questions in the same paper that I would be knowing very well. Some questions that I would have to struggle for a bit, and I'll be able to do it. So just practice, just look at the PYQs, that helps. And one thing that I followed and I found it worked for me was that I never started with the first question. I always started with around 30, 31 number question, because I always felt that the most tough of that set is in the first question. I do not really know if that's true or not, but it just worked for me. That was a superstition I followed. I always flip pages, question number 30 or 31. I started from there. So just jokes apart, just be sure that even though you see 5 questions tough, it's not the entire paper. There are questions that you know, and when you have practiced so many mocks, you have practiced your PYQs, you'll be confident. So just practice that. There is no shortcut to that.
Okay. Yeah. So did you have any clarity that this is the ideal number of questions I'm going to attempt based on the toughness of the paper? Because again, students, of course, here, of course, would acknowledge the fact that again, the cutoffs have been ranging from late 70s to early 80s to maybe sometime way back in 116 was the cutoff as well, right? So what is the ideal attempt? Were you very confident that this is an ideal attempt I'm going to make irrespective of the question paper? Or was it something you devised that strategy then and there after looking at the question paper?
So largely, I had a number in mind, the number of questions I would attempt. And again, this came from practicing. So while practicing mocks, that I had realized that my guesswork was not that well. So whenever I did 90 plus or 95 plus, my score would plummet down a lot. So I came to a sweet spot that when I do 80 to 85, I score something that's good. So I repeated that over the mocks, and I felt that 80 to 85 is a good number for me. But certainly, you cannot like shut off your common sense during the exam and tweak that number somewhere +-2, +-3 as per the question. So, for example, for the 2024 prelims, somewhere I realized that it's not of 2023 level. So I might have to push up my attempts by 1-2 question more. So I think in 23 I might have attempted 85 to 84 to 85. This time I did 87. So I think have a rough idea. Don't make such decisions there. But of course, have a common sense, have a certain sense of awareness. What type of paper is this? And tweak that number a bit. But do not change things drastically. Do not change things drastically, I would say.
Okay. Now shifting the conversation to the other aspect. Newspaper reading, as you told, key bits and pieces you read during the college days. Of course, you had PSIR as political science as a graduation subject. So, how exactly one should prepare for current affairs? Is current affairs in magazine reading sufficient enough, or is it to be complemented by newspaper reading? That is one question which every student here is, of course, like to your take on that. And how important it is to very systematically read newspapers during the preparation journey.
Sir, I think initially one should read one newspaper really well, and I think later in later stages maybe you might be working or you might have other commitments and you have lesser time. Then you s- might replace it with the magazines. But initially, newspaper reading is very important because it sets the tone of what is happening in the country. It sets the tone of your general awareness. So that general awareness builds up, and in later attempts, you get benefit from it. And if you have time, then you can supplement it with magazines. And before prelims, I think you can use compilations because they are very handy. So I use PT 365 and Mains 365 for this. So newspapers at, I think, initial stages of conversation of your preparation, you should not miss. Later, according to your own schedule, if you're very busy, if you're working or you have some commitments, you can replace it with magazines. But initially, you should be reading newspapers for building up your general awareness so that you know what is happening, what is important, what is not. So that newspaper is required for that.
Okay, certainly you told one more aspect that again it is a combined preparation for both prelims and mains, and you did that as well. So, did you wrote test series for mains before your prelims examination of the subsequent year as well?
So for just for the last attempt, 24 attempt, I wrote a few sectional tests before prelims, not complete ones, and not even for optional. I wrote tests between pre and mains. Couldn't find the time for it. But if you are able to write a few tests, a few full tests, certainly it will push up your confidence that yes, I've written tests, I have tackled paper in 3 hours, so that will push up your confidence. I wrote mains tests between pre and mains.
Pre and mains.
Yeah.
So again, certainly the time gap between prelims and mains for the last few years, there have been less number amount of time, right? And student specifically in their first attempt who clear prelims, right? So now they get into a zone, and again, most of you will be getting into a zone that what after prelims, in fact, people are confused. They start checking up marks, they start checking what is idle question, the number which they are getting, right? So what should be the strategy for these days, where again UPSC is going to give results after 30-45 days roughly, and you have less amount of time between that gap? So how to utilize those days, how to maybe believe in yourself, if I have attempted the questions well, I am going to sail through it, and I should, irrespective of the result, start preparing for the mains examination.
Sir, if one is too worried about the prelims marks, just check it and get in peace with it. Don't worry too much about it. And if you know that you're writing mains for sure, then I think just take a day or two break. Do not waste a lot of time. Do not take a week break, or do not waste your time on Reddit or Telegram analyzing and over analyzing the paper. Just get to your study table and see what all things are left. So first analyze what your situation is. So starting from essay, you analyze how many essays have you written yet. If you come out that you have not written any essay, write an essay that day. So that will just start the machine, and you will feel that yes, your writing means you will get the feel of it. Then come to GS. Look at your notes. How much of your notes are complete? If you feel that a lot of it is incomplete, make a rough schedule that up to, let's say, next 2 days I'll complete GS 1 notes. Next 4 days I'll complete GS 2 notes, 3 notes. So have a very time bound strategy between pre and mains, because that is the time you cannot be relaxed. You cannot be very lethargic. You'll have to put up extra hours, extra effort, because at that time everybody would be studying very hard. So why not give your best? And if you're getting the opportunity to write mains, just use it. Use it very well. You might clear it at the first go. So just use that opportunity. Then for optional, check if you have notes, check if you have analyzed PYQs. So just first, there should be an awareness that what your preparation stands to. Then make a quick schedule that up to what time I'll be doing this, and I'll suggest that take a test series for mains because external feedback becomes important. Or if you have a very good peer group, that can be helpful. But if not, if you're preparing alone, I was at home, I was preparing alone. So take a test series and take feedback. Use the model answers to further value add your answers. And between pre and mains, current affairs is also important because in topics like IR, internal security, many questions come from directly just 1 or 2 months old news. So work on that. So have a very strategic approach to mains. Do not waste time. Have very clear cut schedules. Have clear cut schedules even for writing tests that, let's say in 10 days I'll write a GS1 test. In next 10 days I'll write a GS2 test. And within 10 days revise the notes. So in that, when you'll write one test and the second test, you'll also have to have a sense of completion that, okay, at least GS1 is written once, you'll have a sense of sanity too. So I'll just say that do not panic, but always strive to do better. Always strive. Yeah.
One more aspect that again you talked about maybe how systematically in a disciplined manner you prepared for the examination. One aspect which everyone must be having in their mind is ki, what is the ideal number of time one should prepare in a day for the examination, right? So because a lot of things on social media, you need to lock up yourself in a room and again prepare for the examination. It is a complete devotion for the entire 1 year. Again, you are going to go for it, right? So is it true actually, or is it something which is just a hype thing? And again, people can maybe balance out their preparation time along with, of course, what you usually do. So what is your take on this aspect?
Sir, it's quite subjective, I see, because I think everybody functions in a different way. So I think people who derive positive energy from interacting with people, secluding them in one place won't do any good to them. But if somebody works better, is more efficient working alone, for instance, I think I would be more comfortable when I'm studying alone, when I'm thoda sa secluded. So that will be very subjective. In terms of the hours, you say, over the entire year, I feel every day 5-6 hours. If you're dedicating every day, that's an achievement in itself. But when the exam is close, definitely when the exam, let's say prelims is just 2.5 months away, mains is there, the pre and mains, I don't think you should be doing anything else because the exam is so close, and when you have like resolved to give this exam a shot, why not give your best to it? Especially between pre and mains, apart from your basic things that you need to do, dedicate most of the time to studies because, and of course, when you will be studying and you will be reaching your targets, when you will be writing tests, there will be a certain level of positivity that you will feel. You will be driven to even give more. So I think get into that zone, get into that energy that you are feeding yourself. You feel positive when you go back to sleep, and that night you feel satisfied that I gave this much hours, I completed this, and for you are refueled for the next day. So do not take this seclusion as negative. Take it that you are building up your future, you are building up this is for your own growth. So when you will see this, study all of this for positively, you will treat yourself kindly, you will treat yourself well, and you will be positive throughout. So you won't be sad about seclusion, you will be driven by it.
So how was your ideal day of a study look like? Maybe what was your plan of maybe roughly in a day, ideally while you're preparing for the examination, how would it start? How you are going to incorporate current affairs along with your static subject, then again writing answers. So of course, ideally, one ideal day would look like how, and again, if you were to tell us what was our ideal preparation day strategy, we would like to know it.
So when I look back, some days were good, some days were not good. Uh, but if I talk about when the exam is close, for let's say prelims is close, I would start my day by giving a mock in the morning. So because the exam is usually in the morning, so I'll give the mock in the morning, and then I'll review it and extract if few information is useful, not read the entire answer of it, but just extract what seems useful. and then I'll put the entire what is left to revising my static subjects, and then at night I'll revise current affairs. And because CSAT was an issue in the 2023 paper for me, so 24 I also dedicated each day some time to CSAT. So the day would start with the test, and the end would be mostly CSAT or some light reading of current affairs. And for between pre and mains, I had a better schedule because I had a very fixed schedule to do things. So if I knew that for the next within let's say within a week I have to write a GS1 test, I would be revising the notes of my GS1, and I have to write, let's say, PSIR test. So I'll be revising the notes of PSIR and reading a bit of current affairs, not a very detailed reading of current affairs, because I knew I'll have to go to magazine or some compilation, because it's not possible to do everything and read the newspaper also in detail. And if a test is scheduled on that day, then I'll write the test too. Usually I wrote test at night between pre and mains, because at that time I felt really at peace that I could write. But when the exam got close, I wrote a few tests even in the morning slot when the exam would actually happen.
You talked about CSAT and some struggle you also were discussing. So, how exactly, maybe specifically students, I'm not just generalizing, I'm just asking, students from humanities background, right? Specifically coming to the maths and reasoning part, they face some kind of an issue. Though UPSC has told it is going to be a 10th level question paper, but again, we have seen how the nature of questions in CSAT have been changing. So, how exactly you prepared for the CSAT? What issues did you face before the prelims examination as far as CSAT part is concerned?
So before the 2024 paper, I did not specifically prepare CSAT. It's just that I gave a few mocks of CSAT before each attempt, and that worked for me until 2022, because I had maths till class 12th, so I had basic idea, and with supplemented with comprehension, I touched the cutoff. So that was never an issue, but it became an issue in 2023 because I had not practiced well. Also, I was anticipating the result of 2022, so the preparation was also not that found strong. So I could manage GS1 that year, even though the paper was a bit unconventional. But GS2 was where I faltered, CSAT. The paper management totally went haywire because I had not practiced well. And once it slided, it totally spiraled out of control. So then I realized that CSAT is something that I need to look into. So when in the 2024 attempt, I gave a lot of time to CSAT because it was also my last attempt. So I was really scared that this should not cost me an attempt. I should at least get to write mains. So for that, what I did was practice mocks again. So even for CSAT, I think I gave good 20 mocks this time because I was very scared. Also, what I did was identify certain topics that I think if they would ask me, I will solve it. For example, from number series, they ask a lot of questions. From directions, they ask a lot of questions. Permutation and combination. So few topics I prepared well, and and then I also practiced comprehensions a lot, so that in general I develop better accuracy in it. So I think in general giving more attention to CSAT paper and not treating it as granted would help. And if you feel that your CSAT is weak, please address it beforehand. Do not push it just for a month before prelims.
Thank you. Certainly, all of you must be very much sure that again, CSAT is something which is not going to be taken up lightly. And she's an example where again, in her attempt, she got a rank, and the next year she couldn't qualify a prelims examination due to CSAT, right? So CSAT certainly is something which should not be taken up lightly, and we should prepare it very strategically. One more aspect of CSAT is key in that day of examination. Of course, in the morning slot, you have been into whole GS mode, and in that gap of 2.5 or 3 years, whatever we have, people start looking up answers, right? And they become so much overwhelmed that they're mentally very drained. So of course, ideally, if I talk about if you take a CSAT paper and if you have a 1 day hull to solve that paper, you can solve it very easily. The challenge comes in that day itself, where again you have given 2 hours of your GS paper, you are done with maybe seeing the answers, and then in the later half of the day you start solving 80 questions, and that too of English, reasoning, and maths. That's where the struggle starts. Many times people have also this idea that again, if I'm stuck in one question of maths or reasoning somewhere, some take it on ego. No, this is an easy question. I would definitely solve that question, and that in that moment, in that zone of solving question, we lose a track of time which is ticking, right? So ideally, what was your strategy? Of course, because you are an example who have failed in one CSAT and you have given a lot of tests and you have strategized a technique for solving that question paper. So what is a technique for solving CSAT paper in the examination?
So first that you talked about, do not run after the GS1 paper in the break. I feel it's done already. If you're clearing the cutoff, you would. If you it's not, it's already done. So don't run after it. Rather, if you feel like you can look into the PYQ of CSAT, or just if you've solved something, or if you have some basic notes or nothing, just sit idle. It's better. But don't run after GS1 answers. For the strategy of the CSAT paper, I think identifying your strengths become important. So if you're good in comprehension, do the comprehensions first. And again, for comprehension, sometimes the questions, the answer might feel like this might be the answer, but go with what the paragraph is saying. So just keep your brains aside for a moment and just answer with what is written in the paragraph. That helps, because in the comprehension the answer might feel like this seems like a better answer, but there is no seems like. Just answer on the basis of comprehension. And for the arithmetic part, it's better you identify the questions at the very go and then tackle those. And certain questions will be there that you won't be able to solve. And in general, practicing your strength areas help. So if comprehension is your strength, practice a lot of comprehension. I'm pretty sure that you will be making most of the questions right. 1 or 2 questions might be wrong. That doesn't cost a lot, but mostly would be right. And for arithmetic too, practice a lot. Practice the concepts. The concepts should be clear. For example, for number system, the number of zeros at the end of this, all of those types of questions, know the concept of it, not just run after the formula. Know the concepts of it, so that even if the questions is tweaked a bit, you will be able to answer it.
So now we have discussed a lot about prelims and CSAT. I'll take forward the discussion to the academic aspect of all the 4 GS papers. So what was your strategy for GS paper 1, specifically talking about, again, history, geography, and society per se?
Sir, for all my GS papers, my basic strategy was to have notes of each and every topic in the syllabus that's given by the UPSC. And then writing test, getting feedback, and going back to it, as I told you. So my preparation was not very separated of the mains, was not separated for prelims. For example, in history, you cannot separate art and culture from history, because there is a timeline to it. For example, if a question is asked on the coins, if you write in a timeline manner, starting from the Indus civilization to the modern times, you are actually writing history. So do not think that art and culture and history are separate. They're very much integrated. So prepare the topics as such. And here PYQs help. So for example, I think there was a question on travelers to India and how they contributed to it. Then there was a PYQ on coins. There has been a PYQ on specific kingdoms and their art. So that gave me a direction that certain questions can be asked again too. For example, Pala art was asked, I think, in 2021. So this year, I think they asked Pallava. So have that mindset that when you're reading history, keep that in mind that they can ask a specific question on Pallava art. So when you're reading history, also integrate art and culture with it, and art and culture with history. For geography, again, I'll say 11th and 12th NCRTs are very good. But again, the syllabus says that there are specifically says that you have to prepare earthquakes, tsunamis. So do not miss on those keywords. Have 1-pager notes ready for them along with diagrams. Very important for geography, very important. And for society, I think basic sources from internet, Googling can help in making notes of those topics because they're very generic in nature. For example, regionalism, communalism, globalization. But again, if somebody has a sociology background or somebody has studied the sociology textbook of 11th, so a certain way of expression can help. For example, if you're talking about caste, defining it as caste is a certain social category will add something to your answer. So prepare those keywords for these subjects because society and social justice is getting very dynamic day by day. So why not prepare certain key points to add those extra marks? Because maybe the question would be very current affairs based, but if you write certain theoretical aspect, some keyword for it, that will help. For world history, again, do not ignore it. For instance, in this 2024 mains, they asked 2 questions on world history. So at least have notes on what is there in the syllabus. Do not ignore that. Apart from that, I think this is for GS1.
Yeah. One more aspect which you were telling, that syllabus understanding, right? So I would like to address that aspect of it because many of students, they prepare for the examination, but they do not have a clarity that what exactly is there in the 4 GS paper syllabus, what are the keywords which you were telling about. So how important is it is to analyze the syllabus of examination of both prelims and mains in this phase?
For prelims, the syllabus is given in a very short format. It's just an indicative syllabus, not a very comprehensive one. So you obviously should look into it. But for mains, the syllabus is very comprehensive, very directive, and it is the backbone of your preparation. Syllabus also added with PYQs. And you will see that all PYQs actually very comfortably are drawn to from certain syllabus keywords. So both of them have to be integratedly seen. And you cannot miss on any syllabus keyword. You have to understand all of them, have notes prepared. I am very much focusing on notes here because between pre and mains, you won't have time to revisit the basic books, revisit your first source. Those notes will come very handy because you'll have to revise them at least twice, thrice between pre and mains, write tests. So all of that should be guided by the syllabus. So there is no point if you're preparing if you don't keep that syllabus very much in front of you all time.
Okay, right. So you also talked about note making, which helped you a lot. And many a time student gets confused that we are reading books, we are underlining things, we are marking things out, right? So do we need to prepare notes again and again? What should be the ideal note making strategy? Whether we should prepare it online or whether we should make a hard copy notes. So what was your note making strategy in your preparation journey?
So for books like Lakshmikant and Spectrum, I don't think separate notes would be needed because they are already very dense, very comprehensive, and you will be just writing the book again. But I know my friends who have done it, and that works for them. So I think understand yourself that if you will read better through written notes, but you can be strategic and make notes on issues that are more important. For example, in modern history, they most of the time they ask about certain personality. Question on, let's say, Tagore, question on, let's say, Gandhi ji, Nehru ji. So what you can do is that extract information from Spectrum on those leaders and prepare notes on those. Uh, Adding to that, they also ask a lot about certain movements. For example, civil disobedience movement, non-cooperation. They certainly ask about 1 or 2 movement. So why not have a short note on that? Not the, especially for mains, not the entire book, but be strategic to it. And you will be guided by the PYQs for this, that what topics I need to have a separate note for. So be strategic in note making. For the online and or offline part, I think again it's a very personal decision. If you feel that online notes work for you, I think they are good because you can add things easily to it, edit it, add photos. If you work with pictography memory, that helps. But for me, I think written notes helped, and I added them. But for me, interview, I used digital notes because I did not have my physical notes with them, and also I found that for interview it was better to have digital ones.
Great. Now coming to the most two dynamic papers of the examination, that is paper 2 and 3, where again, if you see the kind of questions which have been asked in the last, of course, for the previous year question papers of GS 2 and 3, questions are more on a dynamic side. It is integrated with something which has happened in current affairs, right? So how exactly one should prepare for such dynamic papers, and how one should integrate current affairs note with the static part of syllabus, so that again they can deliver something in the examination with the kind of questions UPSC has been asking specifically for paper 2 and 3.
So certainly paper 2 and 3 are very dynamic, and they're dynamic for everybody. So if you prepare it well, there's certainly an edge. So if we talk about paper 2, let's say IR, mostly I've seen that questions are mostly asked on very current affairs based. For example, they recently asked on Maldives the last year when a lot of it was in news. They asked on Central Asia when a lot of it was in news. So apart from running after many sources, pick up any current affair compilation and do it first for IR specifically. Because, and when you know the basic of the world dynamics, which you would know from reading the newspapers, you don't need to run after a lot of sources. You can be strategic. And again, you can also use test series here between pre and mains, because the test series would cover a lot of topics that are in news and prepare them. For example, in 22 mains, I think India Sri Lanka was a lot in news because Sri Lanka was in crisis. And I think I just prepared it from test series and it came in the exam. So for IR, I think very current affairs approach would help. For polity, but I feel, and governance, you need to have the basics right. And for that, polity, Lakshmikant is sufficient. But of course, add it with current affairs. For example, you know sedition, you know the provisions of sedition. But if a new case has arisen or a new news has arisen on sedition, you will be value adding your answer if you write about it. For governance too, for example, NGOs and government relation is a topic. So there is a certain theory or a certain general idea about it. But if you write certain new examples, certain new value addition, that will help. So for IR, I feel you can be current affairs totally approached, but have some basic idea of world dynamics. But for polity and governance, mix the static with the current affairs. For GS3, for the topic of internal security, the questions come from syllabus directly mostly. So have static notes prepared and just add current affairs things to it. For example, let's say on Naxalism, you have basic idea of what is Naxalism, causes of it, how it impacts, and what is the government doing. But let's say a Naxal attack has taken place very recently. You should know certain things about it and what the government has done. So you will be able to write it, and that will, of course, add value to it. Here, the government reports would help. For example, if you look into the Ministry of Home Affairs website, their report, they write about how Naxalism has been tackled. So you can be strategic and pick up all those resources, but have certain basic notes. For example, what is Naxalism, why Naxalism, what to do about Naxalism. Do not miss on that. Even in the economy portion, basics shouldn't be missed. For example, there's a topic on e-technology for the aid of farmers. You should have a certain idea that how technology would help the farmers, how technology also becomes barriers because there is digital divide and all of that. But also prepare that how some new technologies are emerging. For example, I think certain years back, the government gave certain initiative to new agri-tech startups. So that will add to the answer, but do not miss on the basic part. Have basic prepared, just add current affairs to it. Don't run after current affairs, that I want to say.
So till paper number 3, all the subjects which we are reading for this examination is something which we are having awareness regarding it. For example, history, geography, economics, polity, disaster management, internal security, something which we look around. But when it comes to paper 4, it becomes altogether new, where we are talking about integrity, we are talking about honesty, we are talking about, let's say, any other ethical parameters, and then there comes case studies, right? So how you have started prepare for ethics examination? What was your strategy, and how did you tackle the theoretical aspect along with the case studies?
So ethics was certainly an issue for me because I scored really low in my first 2 mains, around 89 in the first, 99 in the second. And even in my third mains, the recent mains that I got result from, my score did not improve a lot. So I am still in confusion at what works for GS4 because In the current attempt, I thought that I did a lot to improve it, but it did not. But I think what helps in GS4 is that you should have very much clarity on definitions. That is non-negotiable. Also, examples should be very practical. Examples should be very something that people could relate to, and also case studies should be solved in a very practical manner. You cannot be idealistic always, but not non-legal also. So I think there should be a balance about it. But still, sir, I think GS4 is something that is still a mystery for me. I do not know a lot about it.
Fine. One more thing that again in answers of paper 2 and 3, where again questions are of dynamic nature, we need to throw our opinion also, right? Where there are certainly questions being asked, and again, what do you feel like? There are questions on critical analysis, where again you have to come to a conclusion, you have to give a way forward, right? And many a times, of course, during the preparation phase, we have a lot of opinion which is different from what exactly the government has been functioning, right? So how exactly one should have a balance of opinion as far as writing down the answers are concerned in the mains examination?
So I think appearing very balanced would help. For example, if there is a question on analyzing the environmental impacts of, let's say, a developmental project, have both sides covered. For example, yes, it would help in employment and all of that, but also write about how there would be repercussions. And this will show the examiner that you can think both ways. And I think conclusion should be always positive, that development is a long drawn process, and I think there will be costs to it, and the cost can be minimized by environmental impact assessments, government initiatives. So I think appearing balance at the end would help. Avoiding extreme statements, avoiding extreme thoughts should be done, because that puts out a wrong image to the examiner of not being balanced. And government, whatever initiative that they have taken, their stand can always be written, and what extra is being said can be written. Let's say a Supreme Court judgment has come on certain issue, that can be written to show what could be the way forward.
Right. So one more aspect, that essay is a paper where again students generally prepare after they clear the prelims examination. So was it something you also did? And as there is no defined syllabus that what exactly are the going topics which are going to come up, but lately what we have been seeing that the topics are more of philosophical or in nature. Maybe there was a term, I think FOMO was a topic of this year essay as well. So the nature of topics have been very ever evolving, right? So how did you prepare for your essay papers throughout your preparation, and what worked for you?
So for the first 2 years, my essay scores were low, and for the last mains they improved. So I think what mistakes I was doing first, I would talk about it. So what I was doing was that running after a unique topic. So that caused me marks, because what we feel is that if we pick up a very popular topic, it is being written by everybody, I'll score low. But that doesn't happen. One should pick up a topic that one is very comfortable about, thinks that they can write well, and you will be awarded for that. The second mistake I did was just sticking to the topic, not thinking analytically about it. So, for example, there was a question that forests are the best model for economic growth, I think in 22. And I just justified the topic in my UPSC essay paper and did not analytically think about that how there could be a counterpoint to it too, and how I can innovatively analyze and write about things. So it was a very unilateral paper. So I was scored low in that. So, but this time, what I think might have worked was that I took the topic and asked questions on it. For example, if there was a question that the world should work together or it will fail. So I asked that what is the current status of world today? Why there is lack of cooperation? What happens if when there is not lack of cooperation? How should we cooperate? what can India do? So I opened dimensions, tried to make it more comprehensive rather than just justifying the topic. So I think that helped me push up my essay score. And that will happen by practice. And that will happen when you try brainstorming a lot of topics, even though you don't completely write the entire essay, but try brainstorming a lot of topics, mostly PYQs. For philosophical topics, I would say, as you asked, again, ask questions on that. For example, there was a topic on, I don't remember the topic, but just for the philosophical part, do not think that it's a philosophy ka question. Think that how you can link it with even general studies questions. This time, the essay paper was very much, I think, not very philosophical. It had a very good mix of both. So do not get fixated that I am good with philosophical, I'll do only philosophical, or I am good with fact-based, general studies-based, only do both. I'll only do that. Prepare both, have strategies for both, because at the exam you do not know what might come. So have a comprehensive strategy of essay and just don't stick to justifying what the topic is. Open up dimensions, open up examples, that will help.
Certainly, very good. One more aspect that while preparing for the examination, all of you must have, be facing that issue as well. That again, we see topics in a stand-alone manner. If we are reading something polity or political news, we are staying it only for the lens of polity, right? So how important it is during the preparation phase that we do not see topics in a very stand-alone subject manner, because and in a multi-dimensional aspect which should naturally ingrained in our own system, and again we reciprocate that in the answer writing as well. So how did that aspect so that again you bring in multi-dimensionality to the topics of the examination?
So that would happen when your basics are all complete and you have notes and you've revised it. So when you will revise your notes, you'll realize that a certain portion of environment can be added to economy. Certain portion of economy can be added to environment. So those linkages start to get developed when you spend time with your material. When you spend time with your material, you spend time with your notes, you realize that all of these do not work in silos. They're actually very much interconnected. So think about how NGOs are. You can write about NGO in social justice. You can write about NGOs in economy. You can write about NGOs in environment, how they are helping. So integrated. You cannot be integrated on the first day. As you will revise multiple times, as you will write tests, as you will practice, as you will read notes, you will start to make these interconnections very naturally. And just having this mindset that all GS papers are very much interconnected and you can write things from one GS paper to the other will help. It's not that the papers are very mechanically divided. It's just that UPSC has to take an exam. That's why they have divided the paper. But they're all very much interconnected, and any example from any paper can be picked up. And if they are relevant, you can write it without any hesitation.
What sets AIR2 and AIR3 apart in UPSC CSE 2024? They didn't wait to feel ready. They started smart with the GS Foundation course at Vision IS Delhi. Structured learning, focused current affairs, real mentorship, test feedback that actually helps you grow. This course isn't just about study hours, it's about direction, clarity, and the strategy toppers trust. Start strong. Start where toppers started.
So certainly ones who gradually progress in the preparation, they would certainly understand the interlinking aspect between the papers, right? So now coming to your optional, that is PSIR. So though of course you have scored very well in this year's examination, right? So what was your strategy of PSIR, and how did it work for you? Did you write any test series before the prelims examination as well, or one should write optional test series after the mains prelims examination? What is an ideal way regarding PSIR specifically?
Sir, I think I did not write main answers before pre, but I think ideally if one should write at least certain answers, best is write PYQs for optional, because for optionals I think PYQs are much more important because they guide you what theories, what issues could be asked, and they get repeated too. So if possible, write PYQs, that will help. And if you have a mentor, if you have a peer group, get it checked by it. There are also online portals where at least some form of solved PYQs are present. You can use those online resources. I wrote answers between pre and mains, and my approach was again very similar towards GS, that I had notes which were complete and I revised the notes. I wrote test, got the feedback, and tried to implement it for the next time. Because my one part of my optional international relation is a bit dynamic one. I had to work specifically on it. So I looked into a lot of online resources, like there are think tanks like ORF, PRS, and then there is Mains 365 of the IR edition. All of that helps in building up the content of the current affairs, but the theory remains theory. All of that has to be prepared beforehand. So that helped me in PSIR.
One more last aspect of the academic questions I was asking is, you wrote Abhyas mains also, right? So how important it is to very artificially simulate the whole aspect of examination before the actual mains examination, and how did it help you in the examination days when we were writing? We are, of course, it goes along for 1 week itself, and maybe simultaneously morning and evening slot you're writing down the answers. So how exactly that whole simulation environment which Abhyas test series have given to you help you down in your brain's examination days?
So definitely, I was preparing at home and I was writing tests at home at very odd timings. I was writing tests at night, so I knew that I had to write at least few tests in a very simulated manner before writing my final UPSC papers. So I took up Abhyas mains, and I think the schedule of it matches with UPSC, that you have to write 6 hours a day and the next day too. So 12 hours, of course, 12 hours within 2 days. So that is a grueling experience in itself, because at the end of the second paper of the first day, things just go haywire. You're mixing things and the interconnections start to build organically because you start to mix up papers now. So that helped me a lot actually, because you go to the center, you fill up your answer sheet, you have an invigilator looking at you, you have people around writing. So all of that builds and prepares you for the final day. And I think if you take the feedback of Abhyas positively, if you take the answers of it in a very constructive way, it helps. Do not get disheartened if you score low close to the examination, because that day it might not be your day. A few questions might not have come from your understanding and domain, so don't get worried about it. Treat it as a test, treat it as a practice, treat it as a learning experience, and just move ahead and go back, revise, and prepare for the main exam.
Now I'll shift the conversation to some aspects where again students have been facing issue on a psychological part. You, of course, this was your last attempt, your sixth attempt, and again you have got your desired service or desired rank. But again, many students fail when we don't talk about failures, right? So, and again, specifically students who have come down preparing for the examination, right? And of course, there were days with you as well where again you had bad years of preparation. How did you tackle that? And with the kind of pressure which has been created around this examination, that of course many of your peers would be working, would be earning money, you are still dependent, you are still dependent on your families, right? And this examination pressure, and then you fail, right? So a lot of things happening. How did you handle that thing?
Certainly, sir. The exam comes with its own share of ups and downs. I think everyone would agree to that. So for me personally, what helped was I had a strong support system in terms of my family, my very close family, my parents and my brother and sister. So that they really helped me go through all those lows. I think they went through all those lows with me. My mother used to get really sad when I was sad. So was very fortunate to get that, and I totally acknowledge that that's a privilege. Not everybody has. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, different conditions. At that moment, I think in general, certain sense of awareness, certain sense of confidence will help you. That having that certain self confidence that this is an exam, treat it like an exam, and try to clear it. If not, you will do well in life. And this is not the end to everything. In general, be kind to yourself. Do not beat yourself on everything that goes wrong. Be kind, try to analyze what your mistakes were and come back to it stronger. And if you feel that things are really wrong, you can consult somebody, you can talk to people you know who might help you. You can might also, if possible, you can take a break from the preparation, do something else, build up your plan B, build up something else, and then come back to if you're really passionate about it. So just don't be fixated with the exam, don't treat it like um, it's the end, this or the end. So be mindful, I would say that will help.
Okay. So of course there are certain days of ups and downs during the preparation day. Some days you are motivated, some days you are not motivated. How did you tackle your low days? Right. And one more thing, that was it studies all along your preparation, or maybe some kind of an entertainment kind of a thing to, of course, to rejuvenate yourself, to get back into the mode of preparation again? What worked for you?
Certainly, so there are bad days in preparation where you don't feel like doing anything. I think just embrace it that this is what it is. You're not feeling like studying. Do not study on that day. Do not study, let's say, for 2-3 days. But if that feeling persists, try to look for reasons that that might be happening. Are you not performing well? Are your expectations and your actions not matching? Is there a lack of conviction in your approach? Just be honest to yourself first, not to anybody else. Just to be honest to yourself that what could be the reason that I'm feeling this, or I might not be performing to my potential. I think honesty to yourself helps. And of course, taking a break from preparation helps. For example, if you take a break for a few days and the exam is a bit far away, I won't suggest very close to the examination. You can visit a place nearby, or if you live with your parents, go out for dinner with them. For me, I loved food, so I loved watching a lot of videos on food, global cuisines. I even convinced my parents to accompany along with me to a Vietnamese restaurant. So I did all of that. So I think you can work upon your interests and just be honest to yourself that if you're feeling low, what could be the reasons to it, and then work around it. Be kind to yourself. Don't be too worried. Don't be too relaxed, but don't be too worried about things.
So you are also an example of a candidate who is a working professional and also preparing for the examination, right? So how did it balanced, and what is a strategy you would suggest for, of course, people who are in their 9 to 5 job and again preparing for this examination? What would be the strategy for them?
Sir, I think my situation would match with only those who have like put in years before and then gotten into certain job. Because if you're starting and you're in a job, then I think it's a bit difficult. Because I had notes done, I had written tests, I had already cleared it once. So it was easy for me to find time and add value to it, practice with training. And so you have to see it and decide it for yourself. If what is your situation? If you feel that currently all of your time is going to your work, then you have to rethink if you want to really pursue work and preparation together. But if you feel that your work is such that you get adequate time, then you can manage both. So I think it would be a very personal decision to make. I was able to because I had things prepared beforehand, and so I would not be able to rightly suggest things to working professional here.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fine. Now coming to the last leg, that is your personality test. You scored fairly above the very well in this year personality test. Now comes the part where again your personality is going to be judged. You have written mains, you have cleared prelims. Now it is, of course, the personality test is going to be about your personality, and again you are going to throw opinions, right? How did you prepared for your personality test, and how different it was from the earlier two stages of the examination?
Sir, after mains, I think everyone strives that they'll start for interview, but that doesn't happen. That only happens after the mains result is out. That happened with me too this time. So, and in a few days, I got to know that my interview is just within 1 month of the date. So, I did not have a lot of time this time. So, I just stuck to what the basics are. Very important first for interview is current affairs. Uh, and for that, I did two newspapers, Hindu and Express. And secondly, I prepared my DAF very thoroughly. I had, because I'd given interview in 22, so I had certain notes prepared, but I again extensively added to it. Also, I had to add things about my current work too. So I simplified my preparation into current affairs, DAF, and my optional because that has been my background. I've done graduation and masters, so I could not look that I had not taken my academics seriously. So these were three pillars of it. So I studied and gave a few stimulator mock interviews, not a lot because I did not have a lot of time. Also, I was not here in Delhi, so it was not possible to travel a lot for that. So for interview, I think one should have a very simple approach. Um, Current affairs is something you cannot miss on, and you need to be analytical about those. And for that, I think certain platforms like I think print or even the vision explainers would help. Um, or even I think the government resources like Sunset TV has diplomatic dispatch, etc., was very useful for me specifically because I am an IR student. So that is important. Just read the current affairs, keep analyzing them, keep asking questions that why is it relevant? What do you think? This can, if this happens, then what is the repercussion? And prepare your DAF well because DAF shows your integrity. If you have written that you are good at something, show that you're good at something at least. So that is important, and one or two mocks as per your comfort, that will just help you calm your nerves. So interview becomes very fun part of the preparation because you also anticipate giving the interview, maybe also clearing the exam, and it's also not just your run of the mill Lakshmikant spectrum. So you get to read new things. So interview is very exciting, and I think everybody has fun preparing for interview.
And how exactly it went through once you entered that room? And again, we have been seeing a lot of shots coming up in the social media that this is how interview happens. So what exactly was your experience in the interview day? Were the board members very cordial? They made you comfortable, right? And what was the overall experience for the last two interviews also for the examination?
So definitely initially the jitters are very high when you are to enter the room. You feel that all of that preparation is now you have to showcase. So initially the jitters are definitely high, but the board members are very kind. The chairperson, honorable chairperson, the members are very kind. They calm you down. They ask you certain comforting questions. So those jitters automatically go down, and then it's a very formal interaction where they just want to know what you think about things, what have you done, what are you doing right now. I think they just want to get an opinion of how are you as a person, how you talk, how you communicate, how you differ, how you agree. All of that they judge, and I think it's once in a lifetime experience, and I'm so grateful that I got to do it. And I was also fortunate that the board was really cordial, made me feel comfortable, and in both of my interviews I got more than what I expected, so I'm just very grateful for that.
And many times in interview, they ask you your stance. Right? What do you think? Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this step of the government right or wrong? Right? Is something because Mahakumbh happened, a lot of things happen in Mahakumbh as well, right? So they keep on asking you your opinion, right? So how did you have your own opinion? How did you frame it? And how would you like to suggest the students that in the preparation days they need to frame an opinion? And what would be the criteria to framing an opinion? What are the cardinal rules one which should keep in mind while framing opinion to issues happening around us?
So the opinions that you give out there should not appear that you are biased or you are inclined to certain thoughts, inclined to certain ways of thinking. You should give your opinion that is backed by facts, backed by um, backed by strong facets of knowledge and strong analytical reasoning. And even though the chairperson, the honorable chairperson, the members might not agree with you, but they will take substance of what you're saying because you're giving reasons to your opinion and not talking in a frivolous way, not just giving your uh, opinion in a very shallow way. If you give for facts, if you give examples to support, and if you justify what you're saying, I don't think they will have an issue to that. I think they appreciate that.
One more aspect which students must be facing at this particular phase, they are preparing for the examination. Of course, you might have started with a coaching or something like that. Then again, you are confused at how much time should I dedicatedly prepare. Self-study, what is the amount of time I should be giving. Again, I have to prepare for optional as well. I have to do the answer writing part as well, right? So how to balance all these aspects in the initial few days of preparation, which students most commonly face this issue?
Sir, I think before jumping into the preparation in full throttle, it's better to first understand the exam, where I had faltered, I had told you earlier too. So understand the exam, understand what it demands, how much of it, of you it demands. So you now know, when you know that yes, I need to be very dedicated and I have GS to prepare, I have optional to prepare, I have prelims in mind, mains in mind. So, and you have your syllabus and PYQs laid out, then you decide your syllabus. And I think that will also differ as per a person's routine. For example, if someone is working, they'll have to club more hours in the weekend. If they are not, they're preparing full time. So every day they'll have to put some hours to GS, some hours to optional. So it will be a very personal strategy, but what is important is that you know that what is to be done. You don't have very granular targets, but have like larger targets that in, let's say, if you're starting preparation in 4 months, I have to complete my optional. So stick to that commitment that you, in 4 months, you have understood your optional, you have like basic notes ready. So I think just keeping in check every day, every week will help.
Okay, so now we are done with the questions which I wanted to ask generally regarding preparation. Now I'll set up the stage for you all. Maybe if you have any kind of a persistence issue, any kind of a strategy you would like to discuss with ma'am, now the question is open. You can ask questions. And please raise your hands and the mic would pass on to you, and again you can ask the questions.
Congratulations, ma'am. Ma'am, I have 3-4 doubts with respect to PSIR. Current affairs specifically, for example, the websites, ORF, ITSA, how often did you refer them? And how did you make notes out of it? The editorials we read daily, how often do we make, and how do you know what to pick from those websites?
So your question is specifically on IR. Thank you, first you wished me, I'm so sorry. So your question specifically is on IR, right? So what you must have some basic notes. So now what you will do is that, let's say you are reading about India-Nepal relationship and you want to read about the dynamics of India-Nepal relationship, how it has changed over years. So you can look up into any article that's there in the ORF or ITSA or Carnegie or any of those think tanks, or any, let's say even MEA, the Ministry of External Affairs has those. So read the article, I'd suggest, and pick up only the important points. For example, the very important developments, for example, the Madhesi movement, for example, or very recently what has happened, let's say the involvement of India or the non-involvement of India in the change of the type of government in Nepal. So this will be topic wise. You'll be doing it topic wise, and you can be a bit strategic in the way that, let's say, India-Nepal is a lot in news. So you might anticipate that a question might come. So search on that. So you'll have to be a little, you will have to think a bit that, okay, India, let's say currently India-Pakistan is a lot in news. So go back and search about India and Pakistan and the dynamics about it, what the scholars are saying about it. For the editorials, not all editorials of IR are important in what that is given in the newspaper, but if you feel that certain editorials are also are adding to your notes in some way, just add that to your notes. For example, there is a topic on India Central Asia relationship, and there, let's say there comes an article on Connect Central Asia policy, or how India is building up policies with Tajikistan, and you find something important, just add it to your notes. Do not worry about the entire article.
Keywords.
Yeah.
And you said that you didn't enroll for any test series in this attempt, but you wrote answers for PSIR.
No, I did enroll for test series. I did not write tests before prelims. That's what I meant.
Ma'am, your copies available online for PSIR, they are of 2022 attempt. I'm not able to find the latest one. So if possible, can you please share your copies and your short notes for PSIR?
Okay, I'll do that. I'm not sure. I think you might have gone through it in some platform. I'll check that.
And
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
they were of 2022, so I could not.
Oh yeah. I think that was my older attempt. So yeah, I'll do something about the 2024 one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
ma'am, how do I know that I'm writing correct answer for PSIR? For example, in paper 1, we have a structure. There is an introduction of the scholar with the name of his book, then context, content, criticism, and conclusion. But what about paper 2B? What is the structure of their answer?
My copies are not available currently, but there are copies that you will find for, let's say, for last year, or let's say 2 years back. So why not you write answers to what toppers have written and match your answer with that? So there's a standard answer that they have written, and match your answer that whether your structure is to the mark, whether the content is to the mark. So you'll have to do that exercise by yourself. And always in PSIR, I think writing to the point helps. Of course, build up the context a bit. In a longer, let's say 20 marker, build up a context, but write to the point. Do not always beat around the bush. Write to the point. That will help.
Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I want to say one thing, that you said a lot of practice would help you for cracking your 5th and 6th attempt. Ma'am, by practicing lot of question, how should we get better Excel for a static portion to be revised? For revising a static portion, how question practicing help us? By mains or by prelims, both of the ways? What should we do?
Let's say in prelims you make a mistake, and you let's say you after giving a mock, you analyze your mistakes in prelims, and you see that most of your questions that were wrong were from the static portions. So that would ring your bell that you are making mistakes in the static portions. For example, you made questions wrong from modern history, which could have been easily be correct, or from Lakshmikant. So that shows that you need to revisit those books. So just go back to what your analyze where your mistakes are, more than what questions you're making correct in prelims. Go back to what your mistakes are. So those questions will guide you where you would revisit. For example, if modern history is your weak area, you'll have to revisit that.
Ma'am, as per PYQs, we are practicing on, just like mains, I've been practicing on PYQs. We are going for a topic-wise to topic-wise. And that should be, that's how to excel the topic-wise questions that we are going for a static portion. How to excel on that thing.
Could you please repeat?
Ma'am, I am repeating thing that by practicing PYQs of topic-wise mains.
I think he has been asking question that again, if you are preparing topic-wise, let's say for history, you are reading about certain section or section era, and you have seen the question of previous year, then how exactly you should integrate that previous year question analysis into your static preparation strategy?
Yes, sir.
That is what you meant?
That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, for instance, I said I gave an example that when you, let's say there was a PYQ on the type of coins that are used. So now that you know that even coins of ancient, medieval, and modern history become important. So you read up on that and add it to your static note. Again, the question on, let's say, comparing two thinkers. For example, Gandhian and Nehruvian idea to Indian national movement. So that question had come. So now that when you go back to your static, you will keep in mind that this type of question might also come. For example, now you will compare the idea of, let's say two other thinkers. Let's say they'll ask you to compare Ambedkar and Gandhiji. So that gives the PYQs give you an idea that how you need to orient your preparation, how you need to pick up topics.
Ma'am, but how to do in this thing, this is good, ma'am, but how to do value addition on these topics? This is GS1, GS2, and GS3. How to do value addition in this thing?
When you have your basic notes done,
Yes, ma'am.
the value addition can be from any source. You can take up those compilations of, let's say, PT365 is a very standard source. All of us do that. So you can add facts from there. You can use government websites. For example, I talked about the Ministry of Home Affairs report. Then Niti Aayog comes with a lot of reports. So you can go to those credible sources. And in general, just Google that if you want to, let's say, learn a lot about terrorism, or you want to value add notes on terrorism, so just write terrorism UPSC. There will be 100 of sources that is present on Google. So use those web sources to your benefit and add facts to it.
Thank you so
I think keep doing that exercise, you will end up with good quality notes. Don't worry about building content too much. Eventually it will be done.
Thank you, ma'am.
How you have prepared environment?
But also for environment, I think rather than running after a lot of resources, the questions that are asked are very logic, commonsensical based. So do PYQs the compilation of environment PYQs once, and you'll analyze that what happens is that they're asking a lot very commonsensical questions, not just factual questions. So that will help you in a way for mains, but you'll have to have notes done. For example, there is environmental impact assessment, so have notes prepared on that. For prelims, you might take a very approach that you're just studying facts, but for mains, have notes prepared.
My question is regarding the PSIR. That how can I start my PSIR course? I have to give first attempt next year. So how can I start it?
Now it depends that, let's say, if you have studied political science as your graduation subject, you might start it with your own. But if you feel like that you need support, you might think about enrolling in some classroom program. So that is a decision that you will have to make. And that will be the first step. Second step would be to make notes, compile notes of the topics. So there are 4 parts. There are 2 papers and 4 parts to the PSIR. So you'll have to have notes of each topics prepared. And then PYQs will become very important to your preparation. For example, PYQs will guide that what topics are more important. For example, justice, I remember, is very important. 1 or 2 questions will definitely come from justice. So I think if you're just starting, initially you'll have to see that do you have the adequate resource or not? Do you need a mentor support or not? So those decisions, if taken, you can move ahead with note making, then revising them, writing PYQs. These are the basic. And when you clear prelims, then you can start writing answers. But before 2 years, you can write answers, but I suggest write PYQs before prelims.
I am confused about the political theory portion because there are lots of political thinkers of Western and India too. So which portion should I cover first? Western or Indian, or focus on what?
That can be your choice. If you are interested more in reading about Indian scholars first, you can pick them up, or Western scholars. There is no sequence to picking up scholars. And if you're confused about topics and concepts, I think there are very easy explainer videos on very important scholars like Plato, Aristotle, available easily on YouTube. You can watch those explainer videos too. But you can pick up any strand of scholars. If you want to pick up Western, you can pick them up first. No problem with that.
What additional sources did you prefer? Any book for specific subjects like Indian and the world, or political theory, etc.?
For the 1A portion, I did O.P. Gauba, political theory. For 1B, I did Oxford, companion to Indian politics. Apart from, I also, for the portion that is there, which talks about Indian national movement, etc., I supplemented it with Spectrum because a lot of it overlaps with history. And apart from that, just general, your polity notes also help a lot in 1B. For 2A and 2B, I did Baylis and Smith. Baylis and Smith, I had also studied during graduation, so I did that. And a lot from the website that I've been talking about, the think tanks, ORF, IDSA, then Carnegie, all of that think tank have a lot of good papers on international relations, so I took help from that.
Okay, ma'am.
There has been one question from one student that again, this is very common question that again, once we started to prepare the notes, sometimes in the flow of making notes, we end up writing a book, right? Which is of course going to be a short notes for us for revision purposes, right? So someone has asked me very beautifully that how exactly one should prepare notes, and maybe what should be the criteria of note making if I'm reading a book or something, some document, what should be the strategy to make short notes out of it, and how ideally I should revise this, and maybe with revision does the notes shorten up gradually with the iterations of revision, or how exactly it happens? That's a question they've asked.
So yes, sir. Initially, the note making is a tedious process, and it seems like you are ending up writing a book. So that's why I'll suggest for books like Spectrum and Lakshmikant, do not make from one to last page notes. Just pick up very important topics, as I talked about. For example, even from Lakshmikant, a lot is asked on the constitutional and non-constitutional body. So have notes on that because it will be easy to cover those topics that way. But for let's say topics like environment for mains, as I talked about, you will need notes. And with revision, I assure you all that your notes will get shortened because you will know that, yes, I know this fact, yes, I know this statement, yes, I know this definition. So the next time you're going to, let's say, shorten it, you're going to not write all of that. So what was the other question?
Yeah, the other question was, is it with iterations, does the
Yeah.
notes get shortened up or
No,
not?
notes would get shortened. What you can do is that at the end, what I had done is that for GS 1, 2, 3, I had separate fact sheets prepared. From all those notes, what I had extracted was just facts, which I would be using in notes. So you will end up having all those facts and just figures at one place, so that while writing answers and before writing the test, if you just go through it, you will recall all those facts and that will help in your value addition. So don't worry a lot about that your notes are bulky. Eventually they will get shortened because your mental capacity will increase, your understanding will increase. You will not need those bulky ones. Yeah.
One more question which student have been asking is, again, we say revision is the key in this examination, and again, we don't know exactly how we should revise. So they have asking question that again, should we revise everything what we have read, maybe starting from the NCRT, standard books and notes, everything, or there is some strategy for revision as well? That again, we should only read the notes part, or maybe we should read this entire thing what we have read since the beginning of our preparation for revision.
Sir, because if one has made notes, then prepare your notes. But while reading the notes, if you feel that certain topics, the understanding is lacking. For example, you might be reading about physical geography and you feel that, let's say in a topic like continental drift, there are certain parts missing, you're not able to add 2 plus 2 there, then go back to the books in that situation. Go back to static sources in that situation. So basically, revision should be your notes, revision should be your smaller materials. But if you feel that understanding is lacking, then go to the basic books. That will help.
There was one more question, but again, that is broadly discussed. That again, someone has asked ki the syllabus has just got completed. Then again, how they should go along with the preparation. I think you have discussed that. Again, we should start with writing down the tests, analyzing previous year question papers, writing down the mains answer writing. That is how we should go about once we are done with one reading of our syllabus, complete syllabus, right? So these are the questions here. I think any further questions are there?
शुभकामनाएं मैम आपको। अभी अभी मेरा सिलेबस कंप्लीट हुआ है, तो उसमें काफ़ी पेजेस के नोट्स बन गए हैं, तो उसको शॉर्ट में कैसे करें, समस्या यहाँ पे आ रही थी।
जैसे ये आप कर सकते हैं कि उन नोट्स में ही आप इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ों को अंडरलाइन कर लें, तो जब आप नेक्स्ट टाइम पढ़ेंगे तो बस उन चीज़ों को पढ़ेंगे। लेकिन मान लीजिए आपको लग रहा है कि दोबारा से उनको छोटा करके लिखने में मुश्किल आएगा, तो आप दोबारा मत लिखिए, उन्हीं में अंडरलाइन कर लीजिए। बट और ये आप कर सकते हैं कि जैसे मैंने बोला, आप फैक्ट शीट बना सकते हैं। हर एक GS पेपर का आप एक फैक्ट शीट बनाइए कि जिसमें सिर्फ फैक्ट्स हो। जैसे GS 1 में आपने मेजर साइट्स ऑफ लेट्स से मौर्यन आर्किटेक्चर लिख लिए, मेजर साइट्स ऑफ वॉल्केनोज लिख लिए। तो इस तरह के चीज़ों से क्या होगा कि आपके पास बहुत ही डेंस कंटेंट कम पेजेस में प्रिपेयर हो जाएगा। ऐसे कर सकते हैं।
जी धन्यवाद।
Good afternoon, ma'am, and congratulations. My question is that uh, since it's your sixth attempt, uh, you must have gone through lots of pressure from society and within you. So, how did you cope up, and how do you see your failures? And adding to Sir's question, can you please tell about the integrated note making where you are adding current affairs, news, magazines, and with vision class notes? I want to ask this.
Thank you. Definitely, pressures was there, and I faced failures multiple times, as I discussed. As I talked, my family was my primary support system, and also I think I looked internally when I failed, so that helped me realize that I was the one making mistakes, and I'll have to get over this and then work harder to actually make my dream come true. So I think that would have helped. The question on integrated note making, I think note making is something that you master. Note making is not something that you would know on the day one. So just start with the note making. Then, when you would read multiple subjects, when you would read and also see PYQs, topper copies, your note making would automatically improve because you would know that what topic is essential, what topic is more important, what is not that important. That will help. Integrated बनाने के लिए you can add in the same notes. If digitally you're making it, gets easier to do it. If not, then you'll have to add pages to it. वैसे कर सकते हैं आप.
एंड मैम कई बार होता है कि किसी किसी दिन नहीं करने का मन होता एंड लगता है कि यार अभी रहने देता हूँ, तो उस टाइम में मतलब कैसे खुद को मोटिवेट करे कि नहीं, वी हैव टू स्टडी, वी हैव टू मतलब focus ourselves into one direction and just sail through this exam. Please tell.
जैसे मोमेंटरली अगर लग रहा है बिल्कुल कि नहीं पढ़ने का मन कर रहा है, तो डोंट स्टडी एट दैट वेरी मोमेंट, क्योंकि कोई बहुत फ़ायदा नहीं होगा अगर आप उस समय करेंगे. बट वही है कि अगर वो फीलिंग बहुत ज़्यादा दिन रहती है, तो आपको थोड़ा चेक करने की ज़रूरत है कि क्या प्रॉब्लम हो रही है. आपको क्या पढ़ाई में मन नहीं लग रहा है, कि आपको गाइडेंस की कमी है, कि आप डीमोटिवेटेड किस कारण से हो रहे हैं. थोड़ा सा उसको आइडेंटिफाई करिए एंड हमेशा गो बैक टू वाई यू स्टार्टेड, वाई यू केम हियर. तो वो आपको मोटिवेट करेगा कि ठीक है, कुछ देर तो हो गई ऊपर नीचे, तो उससे हम अपने पूरे जर्नी को डिफाइन नहीं होने देते हैं. हम अपने बड़े गोल को ध्यान में रखते हैं. एंड जब हमें पढ़ने का मन नहीं कर रहा है, तो लेट्स से थोड़ा ब्रेक ले लिया, फिर वापस से स्टार्ट किया. उस दिन थोड़ा ही पढ़ा लेकिन कुछ किया, और फिर उसके बाद नेक्स्ट डे बेटर होगा. तो हमेशा एक पॉजिटिव माइंडसेट रखना हेल्प करेगा.
Thank you, ma'am, and
Thank you.
again congratulations.
थैंक यू.
Congratulations, ma'am. Ma'am, the basic issue I'm having with is the answer writing. Because of DU exams and the CBSE boards, I'm having the habit of writing very bulky answers. But when I'm seeing toppers copy, they are sort of some notes. Like that is the main issue that I'm not able to cope up with. And the second thing is about the current affairs. You have mentioned the current affairs importance in almost every subject. But the main problem is I'm having my attempt in next year, and from now I'm having a habit of reading newspapers, but now I'm thinking, should I make regular notes from the newspaper or should I add in the respective subjects? That's the main issue. So these are the main two questions.
First, your question on bulky answers, I think UPSC will solve that problem for you. They'll just give you 2 pages to write for 10 marker, 3 pages to write for 15 marker. So automatically you won't be writing bulky answers on the exam day. Don't worry about it. And I think you're changing your strategy from DU answer writing to this will happen when you have a time ticking on your head, in the sense that you know that you have 20 questions to write in just 3 hours. You cannot write more than, let's say, 150 words for those 10 markers. And you will, when you practice, you will achieve it. It won't be a problem. It's just that a phase of transition is needed. So what you can do is read the question and internally ask what the demand of the question is. Now, when you know what the demand of the question is, just write the demand of the question. I think start with that basic practice so that you don't let your mind wander and you have a habit of understanding the demand of the question. Because at the end, demand of the question, if answered, you will get marks. For writing anything extra, you are not writing, you're not getting any marks. Once that habit of answering the demand of the question is done, then you can do certain basic value addition. For example, if they ask about, let's say, our independence movement, that write about the contributions of, let's say, moderates or extremists. So just write what were the contributions of moderates, extremists. Do not write extra stories, extra ideas about it. So just stick to the first answering to demand of the question, and that will limit your thoughts, limit your answer to in content wise also, and you'll be able to write very exact answers. The second part was, if you're preparing full time, then I'll suggest you can have full newspaper ka notes, and that will actually help you, because you can add those things to your mains notes. For example, if a Supreme Court judgment comes on, let's say, election commission, you can add it to your polity notes. So if you're preparing full time, you can do it. But if not, take use of the compilations freely. Don't worry about lot that you have not read the newspaper or something of that sort. Yeah, just don't be worried too much. Cover things from any source. The aim is to clear the exam, aim is to write good answers. You can use whatever source that works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Okay, first of all, congratulations for such an excellent result. My question is like, how do we decide a timeline for a subject? Like, for example, we have certain books. When there are ample of books, we have to do a time-bound study. So how do we decide a timeline? For example, we pick up Lakshmikant. So how do we decide a timeline for that?
I know it can be tough to put a very strict timeline to it. Myself, I had done it over years, so I cannot very strictly put a timeline to it, but you can think it that way, that you have certain pillars to complete. Let's say polity, economy, environment. So you can put 2 subjects for, let's say, 2 months. You can chalk out a routine that works for you. It won't be same, because let's say your economy is inherently strong, or you come from a, let's say, political science background. It won't take you a lot of time to complete Lakshmikant. Or let's say you have a history background. Your history would be very much prepared. So I think curate your timelines. Do not stick to one set timeline. If you think that for you Lakshmikant is taking time, then okay, don't be worried too much about it. But have a schedule that, okay, I'll complete it in, let's say, 2.5-3 months. Don't drag it, but don't get too worried if it does not get completed in a month.
I have one more question. For like essay writing, I have to give the 2026 attempt. So like, what should I do? I should start writing like on random topics and just test my ability to write or something? Or should I wait for, some lectures or classes or me to complete some subject? Or should I start it right away?
You can start writing, and not on random topics. Pick up the PYQs and you can write the questions on that. If you have a peer group or somebody you think that is somebody who can judge an answer or judge an essay, you can show it to them. Also, what you can do is pick up any topper essay, write an essay on whatever test series that they had written, and match what you have written with them. So what you will see is that what kind of content you wrote and they wrote, what kind of structure you made, whether your flow was good, because their flow would be good because they've gotten good marks. So judge it on the parameters of content, flow, context setting, overall like feel good effect of the essay. So I think essay is something that we can judge ourselves too, because essay is not a very GS like paper, it's a very free flowing paper. So I think you can self-evaluate it too, but if you have the resources and if you have certain test series that you've enrolled to, you can start giving essay tests. But do not get too fixated on essay right now. Let's say write an essay per month, that will do.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, ma'am, first of all, that you have achieved wonderful rank. And my question is to you, how to choose optional subject?
I talked about this, that if you have a graduation subject and if you are inclined to taking it, I will suggest positively to it. For example, I know my friends who have cleared with very good marks, even in a tough subject like electrical engineering, because they had a knack for it, they liked it. So if you are, let's say, graduating in history, I'll suggest take history optional, because that reduces your work, because you've already studied it for 3 years. You have, let's say, some sort of notes ready, you have some sort of understanding ready. But if, let's say, you want to shift your optional, few factors that you need to keep in mind is availability of resources, good resources, availability of mentors, availability of good tests, also some level of interest. You cannot be reading something that you're totally disinterested in. But I won't put interest as the number one factor. I would put what you can read, what you can score well in, what is easier to understand. So take a decision on the basis that you have to get good marks in optional, clear the exam, not become very much or some authority in that subject. So make a strategic decision rather than a very emotional one here.
Okay, with that, we'll come to the end of this particular discussion. And thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And again, we at Vision IS feel very proud that we were one part of your journey and for this examination. And we hope that you serve the country. And again, you become one of the most talked about civil servants in the country. And all the very best from our side.
Thank you. I thank the entire Vision IS team here for calling me, and also everybody who took out time from preparation to sit here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you. A round of applause for the ma'am.